Good evening, everybody. This is Darius Assemi coming to you live from Fresno, California, bringing you another great show, GB Wire Unfiltered, along with my co-host, news director, executive vice president of GB Wire. That's not
Yeah,
Mike Arbasi,
I wish I was Bill.
okay, that's Bill McEwen, and of course Mike Arbasi, president of Fresno City Council, a friend. Mike, you've been on a vacation. It sounds like city council has been on vacation for like months. No, that's not true. We know it's not true. Okay, let's get to it. We have a great show for you this evening. We're going to cover a few things out of the gate, and then we're going to talk about Fresno Unified, an issue with one of the trustees, which is which, by the way, we have invited Viva as the trustee, but she did not respond to Paul, our producer. And then, of course, the second half of the show, Bill and I did a great interview with Dave Fansler, the owner and CEO of, I think it's called Fansler Restaurant Group, which he, along with a few investors, own 4 restaurants in Fresno, mainly in North Fresno. And what happened to his general manager in late June of this year. So let's get to it. Enjoy the last of this great weather for maybe one more day, maybe 2. We got a nice triple-digit heat wave coming our way starting Thursday and through the weekend. A little cooling off in the evening, but really not enough. 76, which is probably 4 o'clock in the morning, not cool enough. What will be a fair Russia-Ukraine peace deal? Overwhelming majority of you said, hey, Ukraine gets all of its land back. And then followed by the way, this poll, I was talking to Paul this morning. So did anybody really sign up for this other poll, which is, how do you feel about Governor Gavin Newsom adopting President Donald Trump's social media style of posting in all caps and using derisive nicknames? He said this poll was going nuts. There's a lot of people that have signed up for this poll and kind of almost evenly split. Great to see Newsom give Trump a taste of his own medicine, followed by it's a bad look for the governor and no one can out-Trump the Donald. I thought, gosh, who would sign up for this poll? But Paul told me this is one of the most popular polls we've done on GB Wire. Israeli stage nationwide protest. Israelis stage nationwide protest to demand end to Gaza war and release of hostages. A lot of Israelis have been protesting in Israel about the atrocities taking place on the Gaza Strip and the starvation of these folks. It's not natural starvation. Israel will not let aid in or limited aid in. And of course, the United States is very involved in that. President Trump wants to address and solve it, but so far, I think Israel is telling the president, here's what we're going to do, and you need to follow it. Hamas accepts proposed deal for a ceasefire with Israel and hostage release, Egyptian sources say. By the way, on this issue, here's a question. Why didn't Hamas release all hostages, a year ago? If they would have released it, could we have avoided 80% or 90% of Gaza Strip to be destroyed? I mean, it's been bombarded to hell and back. It looks like a nuclear bomb went off in that area. So I don't know if that would have happened or not. As Netanyahu expands Gaza war, some reservists grow more disturbed. A lot of information out on that part of the world for those of you that are interested. Al Jazeera can get online. Of course, we cover a lot of it along with Reuters and New York Times. Bill, this is yours. 5 things to know about Governor Newsom's plan to redraw California election maps. Bill, take it away.
So the breaking news is that 4 Republican lawmakers have asked the Supreme Court to intervene.
Oh, hold on, Bill. Let's get Bill on the screen. Okay, great. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
So the breaking news or the latest news is that 4 Republican lawmakers, as expected, have sued to block the proposed maps, revised maps, gerrymandered maps going on the November ballot. And they've asked the state Supreme Court to intervene.
Okay.
Everybody needs to know that the legislature was expected or has to vote by Friday to put it on the ballot to have this happen. Of course, voters will get the final up and down. We reported earlier that 64% of California registered voters like the Independent Redistricting Commission. Now, the Newsom camp has come out with internal polling showing that there's 52% response or favoritism for California's plan to counter what's going on in
Okay.
Texas.
Good. And of course, one of the concerns of the Republicans is that I am one, by the way, happen to be one, is there could be a great blue wave in 2026. And how do you stop and avoid a massive takeover of Congress by Democrats? Massive meaning potentially 2/3 of Congress, at least on the House side, which all 435 are up for re-election every other year. Overwhelming majority of those folks become turn out Democrat, or the Democrats get voted in. So, is there a way to avoid that? Well, if you redistrict and make the lines easier for Republicans to get elected, that kind of helps. And the next article, which Bill is going to briefly tell us, some of the lines drawn here in the Valley. In California, is the reverse. How do we get Republicans out and get more Democrats electable? In Texas, is the reverse. Bill, take it away briefly, because we got to get to our two
very
main topics.
quickly, the goal is 5 seats, and in the Valley, what's going on is the way the lines have been redrawn, it makes it harder for David Valadao, Republican, to be reelected. The new lines also make it easier for Adam Gray up in Merced and Josh Harder in Stockton to be reelected. Jim Costa's seat district's about the same. Vince Fong, the Republican Bakersfield, his seat's about the same. Newsom, where they really put the screws to the map, Darius, was Northern California, where they have targeted Doug LaMalfa, longtime conservative Republican congressman, and also Kevin Kiley, who's an outspoken critic of Governor Newsom.
Got it. Okay, Bill, we're going to, I think we've talked, and of course, California Republicans file suit seeking to block Newsom redistricting plan. There's a lot of information on that on GV Wire. This sounds like a boring topic, but it will impact who's going to run our Congress in January of 2027. So please pay attention to that. We have a lot of great information, at least how some of the local meaning Central California races are going to shape out. Bill, let's talk about America's wildfire fighters.
So very quickly, I know when I talked to you the other day, Darius, you were shocked that Forest Service firefighters, also the firefighters here in California, they don't wear masks. They're not issued masks. The New York Times has done a deep dive into this, well-documented reporting, and it shows that many firefighters in their 20s are getting sick, in their 30s getting cancer, leukemia, and in their 40s on waiting lists for lung transplants. So given how important firefighters have become in this age of drought and more wildfires, this is something that Congress and individual states, especially in the West, need to look at.
Great point. Let's go to Mike Rabasi. Mike, do you have an update for us? Anything to report this week? Or actually, no, there's nothing going on this week, Mike. Oh, Mike, you're on mute.
Sorry, not this week. We do have a council meeting coming up next Thursday at 9 a.m. I will give you one tidbit, though, that nobody else knows about yet.
Okay.
Our following meeting will be on September the 11th, and we're doing something I don't think we've ever done before. We're actually starting the meeting at 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, and that's so we can all attend the memorial services for 9/11 that are held in Clovis.
Awesome. So Fresno City Council is going to be in Clovis.
Just for a little bit, and then we
Okay.
start up at 10 back at City Hall.
Is it at the Cook facility?
Yes. Yep. The Cook family built that. Yep. Yeah. On Never Forget Lane, I believe that's where it's in Clovis.
Yeah.
Yep. By the airport.
Great facility, great event. Okay, now we get into, and by the way, we have a lot to cover, especially with the ICE Pismo's general manager issue that we're going to get to here in a few minutes. But before we do that, I want to cover a post and an article. Let's start with the article. Let's start with number 16. Bill McEwen, our news director, wrote a great column calling out trustee Veva Islas and Andy Levine that they're not speaking up. They were champions of the underserved, champions, the folks, the poor, champions of the folks that have been mistreated in the system, whether it's education or in our Central California. I remember Andy Levine, Trustee Levine, was talking about several years ago, universal minimum pay. How do we take care of people in our backyard? And Bill wrote an article, I'm sorry, not an article, a column, said that they need to speak up. They've seen everything that's going on at Fresno Unified. They need to speak up. They need to be the champion that they told us they're going to be. And by the way, we invited, and I'm going to say this several times, we invited Veva Islas, who I have met personally several times, and she wants to do the right thing for this community. But she did not respond to GB Wire to come on this show. This column is on GB Wire. You can read it, and Bill is going to talk about it in a minute. But before we do that, we're going to Miss Islas put up a post or a response to a post on Bill's column that I like to play, and then get Bill's and also Mike Rabasi's comment.
Everyone is welcome to your opinions, but I ask that you check misogyny and sexism, that you check racism, and that you check your facts.
For a minute. Okay, so Miss Islas made that comment, and that was, by the way, at the appointment of Misty Her as the new superintendent. And this is a comment that was, I want to say, it's very offensive to somebody. Now, we don't always agree. This is one of the beautiful parts of our country. We disagree. I disagree with Bill. Bill disagrees with me. Mike and I disagree on issues. I mean, this is a beautiful part of our country. We debate issues, and we let common sense and logic and good thinking prevail. And those companies are going to be successful. And I'm going to get to Mike here. Mike, did you want to say something? I want to get to you in a minute. So here's what's offensive about this post. It says, for the record, a white man. I mean, if that's not racist, honestly, I don't know what is. To change the word white to black or to Hispanic, who has lost his way as a journalist. Lost his way as a journalist? I mean, GB Wire has...
First of all, Darius, you know that Fresno Unified only likes things written with AI. We know that.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. But lost his way as a journalist. Look at all the awards that GB Wire has won with the newspaper. I'm sorry, California Publishers. I don't know the exact term of the organization that is an independent body that rates news companies all across the state. And every year, GV Wire wins the #1 or #2 spot in multiple categories. News Publishers Association, something, a California News Publishers Association. But I'm really disappointed in Miss Eslas for making this comment. Instead of saying, you know what, Bill, why did you write this column? And let's talk about why I've been silent and why I passed up 3 other fantastic superintendents as candidates to go with a local person, and explain that to the audience. I am disappointed too, because there's lots of opportunity. If Miss Veva Eslas cares about the underserved, she should be holding the administration a lot more accountable, instead of saying, this white man. I'm really disappointed. Let's watch the rest of this video, and then I'm going to turn to Bill.
And as a woman of color, I want to particularly highlight and celebrate that you broke through that glass ceiling. The idea that we act to keep kids poor is deeply offensive.
Bruh.
I think you will see
Okay,
in
hold
Misty's
the
story that
hold the tape there. Okay. One of the comments I've made, by the way, is that not everybody at Fresno Unified, obviously not every member of the Board of Trustees, but when you want to vote to keep the same bureaucracy in place, those charts tell the story. Because I've talked about why some members of the Board of Trustees want to keep brown and black kids poor when you can't educate them. And of course, education is not all about the classroom, and I get that. We all get that. Starts at home, starts with parenting. But that chart says it all. And let's go to the next chart. Compares Fresno Unified.
you will see in Misty's story that when
Okay, and that compares Fresno Unified to the other schools in our area. And you can see it's the worst performer. Now, it is the 3rd largest school district in California, but you've had so many opportunities for improvement. You've just passed on other great candidates nationwide. One of them was a superintendent of the year. And then to make a point when Bill calls you out to say from a white man, that's honestly, it's very disappointing. I'm very disappointed at Miss Islas. I have more comments that I'm going to hold until Bill and Mike have finished their comments. I'm going to turn it over to Bill McEwen. By the way, Bill McEwen, who I'm going to say this, has one of the highest moral compasses of anybody I know in our community. He works hard day in and day and night, and he doesn't need to. Bill could be retired, but he loves and cares about this community, and he wants to help inform and educate and bring the latest with great integrity to this community, to their viewers of Central California. Bill?
Thank you, Darius. I'll note, yes, the trustee brought up race, sex, and in another comment, she even raised my age and my physical appearance. And you know what, Darius? I think I look okay for a guy that had to fight cancer, a guy that was in St. Agnes for 33 straight days with all kinds of viral infections. So, and the point I want to make is she didn't address any issue in the column. And also, I didn't raise sex or age or anything else. Neither are there any personal attacks in that column. Her reaction was a personal attack. Instead of debating the merits of the column, instead of saying, I could point to 8 things where I spoke out loudly, Bill's wrong on that. And that'd be fine. But she made it about race, sex, my age. And here's the interesting thing when she says, I have an agenda, it's not his agenda. So I want to clearly state what my agenda is. That Black, Brown, and Southeast Asian and special ed students get the tools and instruction they need to succeed in life. So apparently that's not her agenda, because my agenda has been stated in my columns, whether written for the Fresno Bee or for GV Wire, anywhere else over the years. That's clearly the agenda. I want the listeners, again, my agenda is that Black and Brown, Southeast Asian, and special ed students get the tools and instruction they need to succeed. Veva says her agenda is not my agenda. So I would hope that voters in the McLean district would compare and contrast. The other thing I would say is I've been a taxpayer into Fresno Unified for nearly 50 years. The trustee can't say that. I doubt if she's even been a Fresno Unified taxpayer for 10 years. The other thing is I've volunteered many more hours to Fresno Unified than she has. She's in a paid position. Yet for many years, I was a reading tutor at Kirk Elementary School. Took my own time, my own lunch time, my own break time, my own after work time to go in and help students read. So yes, I find her remarks very offensive and quite frankly, surprising for someone who champions equity and inclusion. Apparently, in her world, inclusion do not include 72-year-old men who've lost a bit of their hair. And so, you know, it's clear there's no defense for her remarks. The other thing I want to make clear is I heard from many community members who said the column was right on. And the people I heard from, many of them Latino leaders.
So have I. So have I, Bill.
So the trustee can say and stand on her high horse. Again, I've never brought up age, sex, any of the isms in talking about what she's done. The other thing is the record's quite clear. She's been there nearly 8 years. Test scores haven't advanced. Black, Brown, Southeast Asian, special ed students still not getting the tools, the instruction, the emotional support they need. And during her nearly 8 years on the board, if you go to a board meeting, until maybe a year ago, it was always how fabulous Fresno Unified is. And there's no defense for that. And I don't expect miracles overnight, but as someone who went to Fresno Unified, graduated from Fresno High School. My wife, Karen, and I sent both of our boys to Fresno High School and they graduated and they're successful. We want to see that success for a lot of other families in Fresno Unified. So this comes from my heart. She can say all the bad things she wants. She can cast aspersions. She can attack me. Here's the thing, Trustee Islas. I'm not going away.
Thank you, Bill. Before I bring Mike on, I'm going to invite Trustee Islas for the second or third time to please join us and defend your comments and tell us and the audience what your plans are to elevate kids' education at Fresno Unified. What changes are you going to make? How are you going to hold Misty Her, Superintendent Her, and her cabinet accountable and responsible? There have been some improvements, but the other districts are substantially farther ahead and improving at a much higher rate. And I get it, bureaucracies want to protect themselves. I've said it on this program many times. They want to protect themselves. They want to, it's kind of, I don't want to say incestual, but they want to take care of one another. You take care of me, I take care of you. I get that. But our kids will suffer, and the scores show it. Mike, let me bring Mike on before we dive into
Sure.
the main
Can
event.
we get that quote on Facebook that she
Yes,
responded to
let's
back
put it
on?
back up. Let's put it.
Okay.
That's
So I don't think Trustee Islas needs to explain her comments. She needs to apologize to Bill. A lot of what I wanted to say has already been covered, but if you read very carefully between the lines, it's correct. She references his gender, she references his race, she references his age. Now, Bill can't change the fact that he was born white and she didn't have to, or that he was born male. I can't change it, neither can the trustee. Age, kind of a low blow. I can tell you, I come from a culture where we don't always agree with our elders, but we sure as hell respect them. And this is a very offensive comment. I don't care if it's Trustee Islas or another trustee or me or the mayor. If any one of us put a comment like this, we'd probably be called out, especially if we referenced another race. For people that say, oh, you can't be racist against a white male, that's a load of crap. Racism's racism. This is wrong. She should apologize. And I would say that if it was one of my colleagues on the council that did this, or it was the mayor or someone else, it's not picking on her. She's the one that chose to make these comments that had nothing to do with the story. And what does that mean? That she had to go to personal and baseless attacks. I get it. It was for her a critical article. It happens to all of us, unfortunately. We don't always like it, but that doesn't mean you do this. And the problem is she knows she's going to get away with it. That's the saddest thing about this. And these are the people making decisions that raise the next generation of Americans. That's the reality here. And I would suggest, if for the sake of her own soul, call Bill. He's a very approachable, very generous person. I know Bill. I'd say this if he wasn't even here. And I'm sure he'll be very gracious and we can all move on. But I don't think she has the character to do that. And that's the sad thing.
Thank you, Mike and Bill, for those comments. And by the way, I'm really hopeful that Miss Islas was just overreacting and put that post, or maybe somebody put that post on her behalf. I don't know.
Come
I
on,
want to give her.
Darius. This
Okay.
isn't the first time she's played the race card. And you know what? Voters get tired of that. We can't
Yeah.
get away with that forever. Like you said, solve a problem. I know she has a very hard job. The entire board has a very, very hard job. But that was uncalled for. If any one of the kids at Fresno Unified did that, would they be called out? It's wrong. She
Yeah.
totally went after his. It was a personal attack for no reason. It was wrong. Just because you're mad at somebody doesn't mean you get to talk that way about them, especially when you're elected in that position. It's wrong. Sorry.
Great points.
If I
No,
did that, I'd be called out. She'd be the loudest voice against me. So, I mean, this is ridiculous. We have
if
to
you
have some
put
standards.
if you put something up that says, for the record, a Hispanic woman that said something. I mean,
Or even a white man. It doesn't matter. It doesn't
but
matter.
I mean,
Something that's racist
yes,
or ageist or sexist, I get in trouble
That's
for
right.
it. It's not right. I should get in trouble because it's wrong.
Yeah. So Miss Islas, I hope that you will come on this show and apologize to Bill, or just call him and have a conversation with him. And by the way, more importantly, work on fixing Fresno Unified. Hold the superintendent accountable and her cabinet accountable, and your vote counts. And we know that Andy Levine follows a lot of your leadership, Ms. Islas, on the board. So that's please.
Let me add one last point.
Yeah.
Just from human to human. Look, I'm sure we all in politics get these critical articles and it's hard to read. And I'm sure it was hurtful. But imagine the hurt Bill must have felt. He's got thick skin, but he's a person. When he's not getting attacked for anything that he had control over, anything he said in his article, it's merely going after things you're born with or time, age. It's just so utterly wrong. And that's not fair game.
Thank you. There's a lot of comments, too many to read. Folks can take a look at it. We're going to now move on to our second segment about the general manager at Pismo's, Sam Bepur, who was detained by ICE on June 23rd. That article is also on GB Wire, plus a lot of great pictures of him and his 3-year-old son and his wife, who is a U.S.-born citizen. So we got a hold of, actually, we talked to Sam and to his wife, And Bill and I interviewed Dave Fansler, who's the restaurateur and the operator and the CEO of the Fansler Group, Pismo's, and 3 other restaurants in North Fresno, who does a fantastic job. And we talked to Dave and said, "Hey, how's Sam? What kind of an employee was he?" He goes, "Oh my gosh, he was with me more than 10 years. Folks love him. My customers love him. People miss him, and I cannot believe that he was picked up. He's been in these United States for 38 years, and I guess he had some kind of a record way back when, which he did his time, got cleaned up, and we don't have all the details. The articles that GV Wire has a lot of those details, and he somehow got picked up. There's a lot more detail to come. GV Wire has a lot more information that will be coming out over the next couple of days. Stay tuned. A lot of changes coming up. Not changes. A lot of things happening in that story, and GV Wire will be bringing it to you on what happened. What was a technicality that actually got Sam Behpour picked up? He came here when he was 3 years old. I think he fled in the trunk of his mother's car out of Iran, a country that he was born in. Eventually made it to the United States through Turkey and England. Now, having said that, some of the questions that Bill and I asked Dave Fansler, which you will see here in a minute, is, President Trump, when he was campaigning, he said, "Listen, we're going to have the largest deportation program that this country has ever seen." Paul, if you have screenshots of that, let's put that up. Some of the articles that we published last summer. Reclassification to make, I'm sorry, not anyhow, President Trump has been talking about going after the worst of the worst, picking up folks with criminal backgrounds, and deporting them. If you can be deported back to Iran in this case, if not Africa, some other country. So we have a lot of those slides, by the way, and we have a lot of the videos to show you, which is going to be coming up. Bill, and by the way, Bill and I asked. Unfortunately, Mike wasn't there, but Bill and I asked Dave Fansler what should happen, and Dave Fansler, a supporter of a lot of President Trump's policies, and he said, "Hey, he can't believe this is happening. That somebody that's been here 38 years, married with kids, has been paying taxes, hardworking person, is getting picked up and detained." I said, "Dave, President Trump said that. Candidate Trump, I'm going to pick up all the folks that have got any kind of a background that's not clean," and he's not, coming through on that promise. And he said, he's cleaned everything up. He's made mistakes when he was, 16, 17 years old. He was here since he was 3. And of course, they don't teach you in Fresno Unified. I'm sorry, they don't teach in school, in high school, hey, if you don't have your legal papers, here's how you become naturalized, or look for permanent residency. They don't teach you how to get a credit card. They don't teach you how to buy a car and how to take care of your finances. So many classes that, by the way, I hope they would be teaching, including cannabis. We've talked about that. What does cannabis do to fry your brain if you use cannabis before you're 25 years old or 30 years old? They don't teach you any of that. So unfortunately, some went through the system, got a job, started working, taxpayer, but he has a tainted background, and he got picked up. So I know there's a lot of interest about him. on our social media feed. We've got a lot of calls, and we are putting together a GoFundMe because I'm sure at some point he's going to run out of funds, if he hasn't already, to pay for his legal defense. Okay, we're going to play the first video. Mike, did you have a quick comment before we play the first video?
We'll wait after the video. Thanks,
Okay.
Darius.
Okay, so let's play the first video, video 1. So tell us a little bit about the person that is detained by ICE. What is his position with you? And how long has he
Yes.
been missing?
So Psalm, his name is Psalm Baypour. He's worked for me at Pismo's Coastal Grill there at Blackstone and Nice for about 10 years, if not maybe a little over that. And his current position is he's the assistant general manager, and he's mostly in charge of the front of the house food service. So table service, all of that, and handling the wait staff, bus staff, hostess staff, etc. So it's a big job, very important job. He does it very well. Psalm is a very beloved individual in the company, with the staff, with the customers, and he's been gone since June 23rd when ICE called him, said, your visa has expired and you need to report in to us, which he did that day. And then they locked him up. And he's been here for 37 years. He fled here as a child. His mom came here when he was 3 years old. So, went to high school here, grammar school here. He's been paying taxes here for decades himself. Married a U.S. citizen, has a child now. So they've got the wrong person.
Let me read a couple of comments that are on our feed. Becky Wharton, what has he done to help himself get legal in the last 20 years? Chris Dowdy has comments on Viva Islas that you can read. Inga, Becky Wharton, and what has his employer done to get his legal status, or his wife, according to from Becky. Mike, it sounds like you're going to jump in, but one. Let me just make a couple.
Let's blame the victim. I love it. Let's do it. Let's blame the victim. Because it's so easy to become an American. It's so easy with our immigration system. Washington has done such a great job making a pathway to citizenship for someone like Psalm. Oh yeah, let's blame the victim. Come on. So you know what immigration policy's been? I'm sorry, Darius. You know what immigration policy's been in this country since Reagan, after Reagan? Don't ask, don't tell. That's the immigration policy we have in this country. There is no pathway to citizenship, even for someone who messed up when he was a kid, is paying his taxes, is following the law. Now we want the employer to do it. Now we want him to do it. People stay under the radar because they're worried about this exact situation. That's why they don't go report, because of this exact thing.
But I'm going to jump in here. I mean, here's the reality. He got his green card at 14, and he went to Clovis Unified, Darius, not Fresno Unified. And the events that led to a serious arrest were a day or two after his 18th birthday. And that process went on for a while. And in recent years, he has done what he can, fearing that he might be deported. He has spent $60,000 trying to regain permanent legal status and be on the pathway to citizenship. The crime has been reduced to what the federal government says is a non-deportable felony. And I think Dave Fansler in our interviews made a great point. If you're going to carry out this deportation program, you better be spot on. In other words, you better not make mistakes. You better afford people the time of going through your record and seeing exactly what happened. Sam told us in a telephone interview that many of the other detainees there in Bakersfield with him have no criminal record. And still they're in this limbo. And we know that reputable news agencies are reporting that 73% of detainees either have no criminal record or no major or violent record. And so what we're seeing is the Trump administration wanting to make headlines, wanting to deport large numbers of people, and they didn't have a plan in place. They didn't have a process in place, and they're continually redoing things on the fly.
Okay, with that, let's play video 2 of several of these to go through tonight.
How much harder has it become for you with all the ICE agents out in the community, with all the attention on it? Is it harder to fill jobs? Or workers staying home? Give us a sense of the temperature in your operation.
Yeah, in my operation, we have not had that much of a difficulty. We pay at the top of the scale as far as the community goes, you know, our prices that we pay. And so we have tip share in the system. We guarantee the tip share at $5 an hour. So a starting cook in our company is going to make $21.50 an hour starting January 1 with the new minimum wage at $16.50. So that competes pretty good. And so we have a pretty good share of applicants, but certainly not as easy as it was 5 years ago or 3 years ago.
And one of the upcoming questions that we asked Dave Fansler is, hey, if ICE raided restaurants in our country and raided the kitchens, how many folks would still be working? And here's what he said. What would happen to most restaurants in our country? They said all the undocumented folks have to be deported.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't operate.
Would you shut down? You would have to look at shutting down potentially,
No,
or no?
I would that wouldn't be what I would do. I would figure out a way to solve that problem. If we had to go to a smaller menu, whatever it is, to work with fewer people, there would be other solutions we would look for. But shutting down is not an option.
So at worst, it'll be, shrinking down the menu, keeping the same restaurant staff, but, operating at a lower altitude, for lack of a better word.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. What we have heard is that there's a lot of folks in the hospitality, construction, and farming industry that are undocumented. Just can't find local American residents or citizens to fill those jobs. Now, we all want legal folks. They have some kind of a paper that shows that they're legal, but I'm not sure that they are. Now, President Trump, I'm going to ask Bill this. Didn't President Trump ask for a leniency on farm workers? Because, I mean, hey, you would go to a grocery store and there'd be half the stuff will be missing, half the produce will be missing. Didn't President Trump ask for leniency not to deport farm workers that are undocumented?
So he was under considerable pressure a few months ago from Republican lawmakers in agricultural states. And yes, he said, and that was at the time when he brought back the campaign slogan of, we're going to go after the worst of the worst. However, other officials who are in charge of this deportation program have said the opposite. They said it's full speed ahead. I guess what concerns me is what we see in Southern California with ICE agents showing up at Home Depots and the like. I mean, that's just, to me, it's un-American. They're going in, they're just looking for people. It's obvious that there's racial profiling going on. They don't have specific people that they're seeking to arrest. And that's what ICE does, and it's what it should do. You get an arrest warrant, you identify a person doesn't belong in this country that has a serious criminal record, you go after them. And then you have that hearing and a decision is made. But this just showing up at Home Depots, I mean, to me, it's unexcusable and it's un-American.
Heather Tackett writes, this is not an isolated case. This is happening to so many good, hardworking people. We need a better system created for, number one, work visas and or paths to citizenship. My request would be that those who supported Trump unite to make their voices heard, make it clear they do not like these policies. They do not want all hardworking immigrants who do not have documents to automatically be detained and deported. And I'm curious to hear Dave's opinion about how these harsh immigration policies are increasing operational cost. And we're going to spend a lot of money, and I think President Trump is asking for even more money in the budget to create bigger detention centers and figure out how to deport folks. I mean, one of the questions, if you've been here 20 years, where are you going to get deported to? I think we all agree. You have a criminal history, you're a menace to this society, we've picked you up, you got to get deported. And where, I don't know how that, the logistics of that, there's hundreds of billions of dollars in picking up, housing, and eventually deporting folks, airplane tickets to, or chartering, military planes to take folks somewhere, and then wherever they land, figure out what's going to happen to them, who's going to accept them, which country is going to accept these people. Before we go to the next video, Mike has a comment.
Yeah, so Darius, you make a really good point. Now, I would hope all of us, regardless of party or where we are in life, would agree. If you are involved in human trafficking, if you're involved in violent crimes, if you're involved in a gang, and you meet criteria of violent crime, we will use whatever tool we can to make our community safer, not just from people that are here legally, but also the people that are just law-abiding residents who are working here. But according to what Bill stated, based on reputable news sources, a vast majority of these people being detained don't qualify under that category. But it was sold as going after people that are threatening our borders and threatening our kids and our streets and our and then peddling drugs. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the facts. So none of us should really be surprised this is happening. The president kind of campaigned on this, and he won the election, and elections have consequences. The real question is, how are we going to respond? I think the polling has shown there's a shift in the American people's comfort level with this. And hopefully people like Dave Fansler and others speak up, because another concern is the economy. Tariffs are going to hurt us economically. You can say it won't, but it will. It's going to cost you and me more to buy consumer goods. And we live in California, which is even more difficult. Now we're going to have businesses losing labor force where the reality is they can't find other people to do the job well that will show up. Maybe you could find someone else, but they probably don't have the work ethic to do it right. And that's going to raise costs as well, or create less options for consumers, which isn't good. So we can put our head in the sand and say, oh, we're going to stand for principles, or we can face reality. And the bigger thing I want to keep talking about, I talked about this last year as well. We need to lock all the elected officials in Washington, like conclave, lock them in the Capitol and say, like, the president right now is focused on Ukraine. That's his big issue. You idiots are focused on immigration. Come up with something, for Christ's sake. It's been decades you've done nothing. And not let them out and not give them food until they come up with something. I mean, that's the only way they're going to do it.
No, here we've on this show we've talked about immigration reform so many times. I'm very passionate about immigration reform. I've written about it. I've talked about it. Bill and I have talked about it many times. When he was at the B over a decade ago, I think it was at the B. Yeah, I published a opinion page on immigration reform, which is so needed. So many countries less advanced than us have figured this out. You need brain power, labor, or investors. And you do a background check, and here's what we need. Over the next 5 years, we need X number of these folks. And we're going to allow those folks to come in to fulfill the open jobs that are available for them. By the way, I support, not always, at least one item that Senator Mitt Romney said, and that is this: everybody that graduates from college, especially in math, sciences, physics, etc., gets an automatic green card. Now, of course, you have to do a background check, make sure there's no criminal activity, but we educate folks and then ship them back. So it's a simple way of getting, there is a way to get to immigration reform. It's just that Republicans and Democrats have been able to raise money in putting out a lot of rhetoric on how not to get to. They talk about the problem without bringing solutions. And we've had several other folks on this program, including council member, Vice President Miguel Arias. What did you say? Every member of Congress should resign until they get an immigration bill passed. I think that's kind of what Mike Carbasi was referring to. There's a lot of comments, a lot of great comments, and I'm going to read some of them, but let's play video number 4 next. Does he have any criminal background? Because Trump, vowed to deport, and what did he say? The worst of the worst, that anybody here illegally with a criminal background, he's going to go after. And he campaigned on that last year.
That's right. And so that's where I'm confused on this. And that's what you see on TV all the time, the worst of the worst. And Psalm is hardly that. He did have a juvenile record, or young adult, like 18, 19 years old. He got in some trouble, juvenile type of stuff, actually did the time. And this was 20 years ago. And I think he had a DUI a few years ago. But other than that, I mean, he's got a clean slate, and he's a very nice, honorable, sensitive, caring individual. And our customers will tell you that. His coworkers will tell you that. I'm telling you that. And he shouldn't be in lockup. It seems to me that you should have some sort of synopsis on every single person you've detained. And, let's go through checking the boxes. How long have they been here? What do we know about them? Are they married? Do they have children? I mean, and as you go through and checking the boxes, it puts you in a category that has special attention, whether you should be seriously locked up or that, they need to figure out something for reinstating your visa or where have you across that spread of the screening. And I don't know why that's not being done in this situation.
And towards the end of the interview, Dave Fansler actually talks about immigration reform and something that he's now becoming maybe he was already, but becoming a lot more passionate about that he wants to address. I think Mike Carbasi needs to leave at 7. Mike, do you have any? Oops, did we lose Mike? We may have lost him. Do you have any comments? We have a couple more videos to show. Do you have any quick comments before you drop off?
Just really appreciate Dave Fansler for defending his employee and coming out. It really does mean a lot coming from him to share the real life example. And I've had people, you'd be surprised at things people text you about, but I've had folks text me about Psalm. I didn't know Psalm myself. It's 3 different people, and that's surprising in the last week alone. If you heard what happened to this poor guy. So it's resonating, it's getting out there. And I think that the president wants to champion his immigration policy. Stories like this don't help him at all. And was it Bill that said it earlier? You really have to hone in and make sure you're really accurate with the people that are, because you're breaking up families, and those people know people, and they spread the word. And this is not a good look for him.
Got it. Thank you, Mike. Okay, with that, let's play video 5. What happened during the Obama administration? The deporter in chief. More people got deported under President Obama's tenure, the 8 years he was president, than any previous presidents. Let's play that clip. Did you run into similar issues during the Obama tenure, those 8 years that he was president?
No, we didn't have problems. I remember the problems we would have, let's say 20 years ago, when they would come through and fine the restaurants huge dollars for people without proper documentation, I-9s, all that kind of stuff. That was a big deal. But during the Obama administration, which seemed such a conflict that he was known as the great deporter, and then the following administration did what they did with letting so many illegals in. None of that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, we didn't have a problem during that Obama administration.
Okay, and that brings us to the last comment about immigration reform. But before we get to, well, do you want to play that, and then we'll talk about Bill's comments on immigration reform? Bill and I are very aligned on that, and there's again a ton of comments on Facebook, too many to read. Let's play the last video on immigration reform by Dave Fansler, and then we will opine and wrap up the show.
Since you're right in the center of the hurricane, you know, you have to buy food to prepare food to make it for your customers. You
Sure.
have to find workers and keep everything operating. What's your idea? What's the sweet spot on immigration reform? You want President Trump to go down that road? Just give us a few of the highlights or talking points as what you see as essential to immigration reform.
Well, I think you've got to allow people that have been here for it. You know, first of all, I think we got to get back to the situation where people have respect for citizenship and want to assimilate to the United States. And I would like to see people that have been here for a long time that are working here in the United States put on some sort of path to citizenship. I think they deserve it. Anyone that's been here for 10 years already should already have a situation where they've got some sort of path to citizenship. So I think you have to start somewhere, but we can't just do nothing, and we have to start solving the problem.
Well, you're right about that, because if the president says, send something to my desk that I can sign, he sends a powerful message to both sides of Congress.
And while I think everybody's ears would be at attention right now, and so I think now would just be the just perfect time to put something forth.
Bill, there's folks that go, hey, the president is stirring the pot, getting a lot of conversation about deporting people and deporting criminals, and he's kind of laying the foundation so he can come back with a comprehensive immigration reform bill that both sides go, we're sick and tired of hearing from our constituents. I mean, there's several comments here. All on Norma Flores Fason. Obama didn't have masked men abducting people off the street. Due process. I mean, we've heard that from a lot of folks. Becky Wharton, you have to stop the bleeding so he can address the process. Linda Cotta, Fansler has plenty of money. He needs to spend 10 grand to the Trumpster and get this guy home. Kevin Mulligan, Darius, you and I had this and have been so exposed to this for the last 30 plus years. I feel for our workers, but they knew what was coming. We had a painter that that Jody and I loved, and we not only urged him but helped him get his citizenship as we knew this was coming. We all did. We all did. It's sad, but it's law. Chris Dowdy, ICE didn't have people doxing them during Obama time. All this is a massive buildup for those in power to turn us all against each other. Long comment. Norma Flores agrees with Linda Cotta. Jimmy Martinez, he's just pandering to his racist base. Norma Flores Fason, Jimmy Martinez, you're so right. Lots and lots of comments that I will let the audience read. Bill, what are your thoughts after hearing from Psalm, which you talked to a few days ago, and talking to Dave Fansler? What is your takeaway? And by the way, in all industries, including hospitality, this thing is probably it's not going to go away anytime soon until there is a reform, some kind of a reform that is going to be on the president's desk. And the longer that takes to get there, more of these kinds of stories we're going to hear. Hopefully not in Southern California, but I'm feeling this thing is not going to go away for a while. Bill, you're on mute.
My overriding thought is what some of the viewers said. I mean, this is dividing Americans, putting them against themselves. To me, it's shocking to think about federal agents wearing masks, going around detaining people. They don't have warrants to do that. It's totally un-American. On the political side, President Trump made this promise. As is his nature, he makes huge promises. And so he had to show his base that he was serious about deportation. At the same time, Darius, think about it. To scale this out to succeed with the picture that President has painted for the American public, it's impossible. The financial burden, just the whole execution of the strategy, it would divide America for sure. It would probably cost the Republicans Congress. And so the president also often asks his aides, how's it playing? And what he means is, what are people saying? What are you hearing about what I'm doing? President's very concerned about optics. And so at some point, he and others will devise some kind of strategy where he can deliver on some kind of immigration reform without it looking like he's backing down. And that's very important to the president. So it's going to take people smarter than me to kind of devise that off-ramp, that strategy. Until that happens, we're going to see more stories like Psalms. Because the numbers he's promised to deport, you can't do it carefully. You can't do it with the precision that President Obama did. And you have to remember, President Obama was turning people back at the border. It was Joe Biden's great mistake, and he's never explained it to this day, why he opened the borders when only, far left Democrats espoused that philosophy. If he had continued with the Obama position, possibly he could have won a second election, or he could have set the stage for Kamala Harris to win, but he didn't. That's where we're at. Those are my final thoughts.
Thank you, Bill, for that. And my final thoughts, again, there's a ton of comments that still coming in. Please take a look at those. We won't be able to get to them tonight. Several points. First of all, I'm really disappointed that we had to turn away refugees that were asylum seekers, especially in war-torn countries that have helped our armed forces, our intelligence forces. the Afghanis that were turned back as one of those examples. I'm really disappointed that we turned those folks, deported them. If in fact they have been deported, they are the folks that snitched on the Taliban, helped U.S. forces, U.S. intelligence, and the minute they land, they probably got slaughtered by the Taliban. That's not America's values. Very disappointed in that. And here's my, you've heard the folks that have been on Unfiltered know what my immigration, as a Republican immigrant, what my immigration ideas are. Again, we as the most advanced economy in the world, it's not that complicated, folks. We have a lot of smart people. Put it together, put a point system, the needs of the country, and then secure our borders, which is going to be very difficult to do, by the way, when we have two big bodies of ocean on each side, let alone the north and south border. But secure to the extent possible our borders, but figure out how we need to let folks come in that want to immigrate, especially with our dwindling population growth, getting closer to zero, which is going to create its own problems in the years to come. And then finally, here's my prediction. If the Republican Congress and executive team, the White House, does not address inflation, tariffs, and immigration reform in the next 6 to 8 months, there's going to be a big blue wave in our country. And the president, who sees the opportunities, optics are important for him, how people in the country feel is important to him. I hope that he's looking at this and going, okay, sometime by the end of this year, we better get all these things under control. Otherwise, as we get into election season in 2026, there could be the biggest blue wave across our country. And with that, thank you for joining us. A lot of great comments. I hope to see all of you guys next week. Stay cool. There's going to be a heat wave coming our way this weekend. And take care, be safe, and God bless these United States so that we can get better reforms done in our country for now and for the future of us and our children. Thank you and good night.